Alright, what's up you guys? Welcome to another action figure review, as today we're going to be taking a look at the 2023 or 24 Nacelle Biker Mice from Mars figures. Now these have already been released and out for some time now, as we do have some other figures to be released within this line, as we have Charlie, who's coming soon, and then we also have Lawrence Limburger coming out as well, who's the villain of the series. Now, aside from the bicycles, which are basically the main important part of the Biker Mice from Mars, we're going to briefly take a look at the figures and see how great they really are, and then compare them to the original 90s Galoob version. And on top of that, if you haven't seen the Biker Mice from Mars animated series, I highly suggest you go check it out, because it is probably one of the coolest animated series that the 90s had to offer, because the storyline was pretty cool. So with that said, let's briefly take a look at these figures and see how well they hold up, because I personally think these are one of the best figures released within the year. So let's go ahead and take a look at Vinnie, Modo, and Throttle. Alright, so looking at Modo first, I think this figure really captures the essence from the animated series. Now, he does stand as the tallest within the three Biker Mice from Mars, which is pretty much cartoon accurate, and I just love the design of it. I love the smooth matte finish on the plastic, which is fantastic. The only gripe that I have on this figure is I wish that the metal arm piece could have been more silver and shinier, just because during the war on Mars he did lose an arm and he also lost an eye due to an unforeseeable situation. However, the best thing about these figures is that the articulation is absolutely incredible. Now, there's plenty of other reviews out there, but originally they did not have an ab crunch, but they decided to add it due to fan feedback, and the ball joints within the legs are actually really smooth and incredible, and for the fact that the amount of detail that they offered within these figures is just, unmatched. And I think the fact that the Biker Mice from Mars became a comeback is one of the coolest things that the 90s had to offer in terms of newer additions to the line. So overall, the figure itself is just really sleek, and I love the whole aesthetic of it, and just how his eyepiece looks really cool in terms of, the red eye. And other than that, the detail, the facial expression all looks really cool. And eventually I will do a full in-depth review on all the accessories and stuff, but for now this is more like a brief overview of the figures, and the boots and all that looking really pretty good for what it is, and then everything else just looks absolutely fantastic. So a really cool looking figure. I love the joints and how they have the multicolored blue and then red, so really nice addition to detail. The tail came out pretty nice as well, so really cool. And other than that, let's take a look at the original 90s Galoob version. Alright, and here we have Modo in his original 90s Galoob version, and we can see a night and day difference, as the version here on the left is also very cartoon accurate, as this one is, it does its job for what it is in terms of the 90s, because I guess they had to look at source materials for making it accurate for what it can be. However, there's a lot of night and day differences in terms of the facial features, mostly really similar for what it is, nothing too drastic, but we can see that they did change a couple of color schemes right there on the torso, which is not too bad. The difference right here is that he does have the Biker Mice logo on the right arm, which they don't have on this arm, which is pretty unfortunate, but that's okay. And again, you can see how the coloring of the silver is a little more better than how the original or how the newer version could have been. However, it's not too much of a downfall there, but I love how the gloves have that little red line work, which is pretty cool. The belts came out pretty well. The pants, there are different shades of blue, which I think both work in their own respective merit. Knee pads are different colored in terms of silver and purple. Boots, you can see it's all straight up black on the original Galoob, but in the newer version they added the purple stripes, which adds a lot more contrast against the black, which is really awesome. So not too much to say there, other than both of these figures are just really cool, and I just love how the gauntlet right there on the right wrist pad also is colored, whereas this one is straight up black. So can't go wrong with these figures. Pretty cool, and I'm just glad to actually own two different versions from the 90s and the 2024 era. So that is Modo. Alright, and up next we're going to be taking a look at Vinnie, who is basically the comedic relief of the animated series and within the three Biker Mice from Mars, but he did have a really cool storyline within the series involving Charlie and then the love interest, with whom I won't spoil, but hopefully Nacelle can actually make these other characters part of the Mars war. But overall, this figure did come with additional face head sculpts and other weapons and stuff like that, but again, I'll go more into detail at a later time, as this is simply an overview. But I do love this facial expression. He does come with a more happier, with a wider open mouth. The color scheme of being the white mice or white mouse is really, really cool. And overall, again, smooth articulation, very smooth coloring, very solid coloring. But again, this is one of those instances where I don't really care about shading. I think the fact that they nailed these figures 100% in terms of cartoon accuracy is just absolutely incredible. And the bandana or neckerchief looks really good. And again, nothing too much to say here in terms of what the figure offers in terms of aesthetic and whatever, but detail-wise, I think they did a really great job. And maybe they could have added some detail within the ears and stuff, but that's really okay. Earrings, and again, even though despite him being more of the comedic relief of the group, he had to go through some instances where it tested his characteristic of loyalty, and on top of that, like putting him up to the test. So really cool. So now let's take a look at Vinnie in his original 90s Galoob version and see how that figure holds up. Alright, and now we have the 90s Galoob version of Vinnie right next to him, and we can see it's a little bit of a night and day difference. Nothing too drastic, but I do like how the 90s version captures a little more of the silvers on the face, whereas this one is more of a solid gray. The straps around the torso are green, again more accurate compared to the browns and silvers, and then the belts are two different colors as well. Pants, we know that they have a darker blue versus the normal blue, but either versions work. We have a solid black boot versus a silver. But regardless, in terms of details and aesthetic, I think both figures work in their respective merit. I don't really prefer one over the other, but they each have their own unique individual style to them, which is, again, you can't blame the 90s for trying their best to make a certain style of figures. I like how they still added the pinstripes on the side right there, which is pretty good, and then still on this side as well. The back of the figure, they added the silver linings on the straps, which the left version did not do, which is kind of unfortunate because there's like a hit and miss kind of situation. But again, I think both versions are still good in their own way. Nothing too much to drastically nitpick on, but either way, I think I love the pearlescent white on this figure compared to the beige color on here. And again, I kind of wish that the metal half plate would have been more silver than gray, but again, it's really okay. Nothing too much to drastically nitpick on, but still, both versions are pretty cool, and I'm happy to own this into my collection. So that is Vinnie. Alright, and last but not least, we're going to be taking a look at Throttle, who is the leader of the Biker Mice from Mars, and this figure is freaking fantastic. I love everything about it. I love the detail. I love the shades on the glasses, giving it more of a cell shading style, which is pretty cool. The leather vest is also nicely done. You have the Biker Mice from Mars logo on the right shoulder right there. And then the color scheme on the pants and the boots and all that, really nicely done. Simplistic, yet adds a lot of detail to it. And the thing about this figure is the articulation can be a bit hindered on the left leg because of the holster here, but again, it's not a deal breaker for me whatsoever, and I don't believe you can actually take this out, which is unfortunate, but again, it's not too much of a deal breaker in terms of the amount of versatility that this figure can offer in terms of posing and stylistic and design. But again, I do love the facial expression. You can remove the glasses, which again, I will do more of an in-depth review once Charlie releases, or Lawrence Limburger at some point, but everything else looks absolutely incredible, and I think this figure just nails the concept of Biker Mice from Mars. And again, I think the ears are a little bit lackluster in terms of, could have had some details in there, but everything else came out really, really well. So, and then there's also a storyline in the Biker Mice from Mars animated series where Throttle has a love interest named Carbine. So I hope that the Nacelle Company can make Carbine as well, because she added a great lore and depth to this character, which was pretty cool. So that was Throttle. Now let's take a look at him in his Galoob version. Okay, now compared to the other two Biker Mice from Mars, Throttle is a more, I guess you can say, accurate to the newer version, whereas the other two had some more of a drastic differences in color and style. But here we can see that, you know, same leather jacket, same red bandana, same style glasses. The hairline's kind of, it's good enough, and then same lime green belt strap. Boots all came out really well, pants, so roughly it's like 98% accurate to the original Galoob version, which I do like. And despite being a little bit different shades of brown, I think it necessarily works in its own merit. Which, again, a little bit of a difference here in the tattoos on the right shoulder, which is okay, but everything else literally came out right. You can see that they added little silver pinstripes right there on the gloves, whereas this version didn't. But yeah, they kind of captured the whole aesthetic of this figure quite well, for that matter. And his tail is more sticking upwards, but whatever. Yeah, other than that, really good looking figure. Nothing to really complain or nitpick. I think they did a really great job with this. And then the boots, yeah, all looking really great. So I don't really have much to say about it other than fantastic versions on both ends. So that is Throttle. Alright, so here we have Throttle, Modo, and Vinnie, and of course with the Biker Mice from Mars from the Nacelle Company revamping the series or the line with the sports versions coming out soon. And then we also have Charlie, and then Lawrence Limburger, and then the motorcycles coming out after. I really hope that they have some other storylines involving these other characters, because you know, in the animated series, Modo has a nephew who plays a pivotal role within the war on Mars, and then Throttle with his love interest, Carbine. Vinnie also having a love interest with Charlie, and then I forgot the other female, but regardless, the figures itself looks freaking fantastic, and it's very nostalgic for me. And again, it's one of those shows where it's a little bit underrated. And I do believe that there is a movie coming out. I'm not too sure, but I cannot wait to watch that. So other than that, I hope that the Nacelle Company makes all these other characters, because this company or this line did justice to the original 90s Galoob version. So I cannot wait to pick up more of these figures down the line, and hopefully can expand the Biker Mice from Mars universe. So with that said, I want to thank you all for watching. Be sure to give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next episode.